Hello, everyone. I'm Terry Moore, and I've just authored this book, my fourth book, Doors to Awareness, Meditations on the Real, and today is the live launch. I'm very glad that you're here. It means a lot to me that you're here to watch and participate in this. A little later on, we're going to be giving away a copy of this book, a signed copy. And if you'll put your name in the sidebar, a little later on we're going to choose one at random, and then it will be in the mail tomorrow morning. But we're here about this book. And this book is my fourth book about the spiritual life. And I think that requires a little explanation of my background, because I've been involved in spiritual things for a long time. It was really in high school that a very powerful experience set me on this journey. And I spent a lot of time trying to find the truth and where it was hiding and who could show it to me and how I could get to know it myself. That took me down a number of different paths, some of which were beautiful, some of which were not so beautiful. But eventually, I found a philosophy called perennialism. And what perennialism is the philosophy that there is a perennial truth, a Sophia perennis, that appears in all of the great traditions and in all of the wisdom traditions of the world, because they're all about taking one back to the one perfect unity, which we call God, the infinite, the perfect. Now, perhaps the greatest author of books on perennialism is the 20th century philosopher Frithjof Schuon, whom I knew personally. And perhaps perennialism is best stated as the title of one of his books, perhaps his most famous book, titled The Transcendent Unity of Religions, because that's what perennialism is. It's about the transcendent unity of everything. I got to know Frithjof Schuon in the mid-70s because of his works that brought me to him. He was also the sheikh of a Sufi order, which I joined and later became a functionary and finally a teacher in. And that process was very helpful and is certainly true and real and helps one know oneself and God and the nature of the real. And I did that for a long time. And then sometime late in that experience, several of my colleagues and I decided that there needed to be an additional emphasis on action, an additional emphasis on being able to take all of these beautiful things we knew and were being taught and that we shared among each other and put them into action, so that rather than simply being beautiful spiritual principles, they could be used in ourselves to open up ourselves to know personally and existentially the true, the real, the one. And with a lot of help from others, I created what were, in fact, a series of some 60 different workshops, all using the themes, and there are 6 themes that were given to me by Frithjof Schuon that form the basis of this practice. Now, the point of the themes, of which there are 6, and the use of these themes, which is what this book is about, is that they are methods of interiorizing ourselves so that we can get on with whatever practice we actually are doing. The themes of meditation are not intended to replace any spiritual practice that you are now doing, but I'd say they have a very good chance of being able to help you because they are transitional tools that helps one interiorize so that one can get to the various practices that you might be doing, whether they are traditional or New Age. And that process is very important, because if we don't do that, then all of the wisdom we have, all the things we know, all of the beauty that we see remains conceptual. And unless we have some way for making that real and existential, it simply stays as an idea. So that's what this book is about, and today I'm going to do a little reading from it. Then we're going to do a meditation, and a little later I'll be taking some questions. But for the moment, in order to introduce this book, I'd like to read the preface and maybe make some comments as I do. So here is the preface to my new book, Doors of Awareness, Meditations on the Real. Preface. And I begin with a quotation from Plotinus. Life is the flight of the alone to the alone. God, the real, the true, whatever we may call him, and we all have our own names depending on our tradition and our personal preferences for that which is beyond duality, for that which is finally true and perfect, and that which we seek. We also have our own practices for doing that, and those practices are generally some kind of worship or prayer. This book uses the term invocation, which is a term that can be used across traditions, that process of calling on or calling forth the true. In Sufism, this is the dhikr Allah, the remembrance of God, the repetition of the divine name Allah, on and on. Similarly, in Christianity, this is the practice that is sometimes known as the Jesus prayer or the prayer of the heart, that uses the name of Jesus or a verse of Scripture as an interior prayer and invocation. Similar practices exist in Buddhism and Hinduism, and they are, in fact, really universal as worship and prayer is everywhere. Now, often as we engage ourselves, as we do our individual practices, whatever they are, we need some kind of support that helps us overcome ourselves, that helps us overcome the dispersion and distraction that we find so much in daily life, and that takes our attention away from ourselves and the good, the beautiful, and the real. And that's why I wrote this book. This book is designed to help us practice more deeply and enter more deeply into our own internal awareness. That's where the 6 themes of meditation come in. As I said, these are transitional tools that help us center and open ourselves to the rest of our practice. As I said, the 6 themes were originally a heavenly gift to metaphysician and perennialist Frithjof Schuon, and they became a central part of the practice for his disciples, both Sufi and Christian and some Hindu. And actually, he was, as a perennialist, fond of and had associates, disciples, participants, and colleagues in many of the world's formal traditions and in the shamanic and native traditions too. It was a wonderful thing to behold. But the use of these themes became a central part of his teaching and his practice, and they represent various points of departure for meditation and prayer. And regardless of the specific tradition or use, the value of these themes is that they can provide access to our interior world where we find the good, the true, the beautiful, the perfect, which is what we are seeking. This book consists of 31 workshops on the 6 themes of meditation, and I offer these to all spiritual travelers, regardless of the particular form or tradition that you happen to be practicing. I submit to you that these are helpful everywhere and can help you and are tools that will not replace but will aid your current practice. That's the objective here. I learned these themes directly from Schuon, who I met in '75 at his home in Lausanne, Switzerland, and where I took his initiation as part of his Sufi order, of which he was the sheikh. Later, in 1980, he moved to Bloomington, Indiana, where I became part of his community and stayed there until after his death in 1998. And during that time, I frequently met with him to ask questions about the interior life and about the use of the themes. The formulations presented here in this book are my own formulations, but they are based on my experience as a user and later a teacher of mystical methods and this system in particular. And throughout all of these, I submit to you that these are a very valuable tool, as they have been for me. And they're a very valuable tool for knowing yourself and finally knowing the truth. Each of these themes, and there are 6 themes, focuses on what could be called a divine quality or a universal quality. The process is then to identify that quality conceptually, then to find that quality in the world and in ourselves, and then to understand that the quality transcends ourselves and the world, and then finally to assimilate that knowledge as part of the one. Simply, perhaps in Christian terms, which is where I've heard this more often, this process can be reduced to the following epithet. Mysticism is about finding God in the world and then finding the world in God. So that's the story of how this book got here, and I submit to you that it will be a valuable tool to you in your own practice, as I said, regardless of what that practice is. And if you've just joined us recently, let me reiterate, as I will again, that we're giving away a signed copy of this book. And if you will put your name in the chat box on the side, we will select one at random later during this very presentation. We'll tell you who it is, and we'll have it in the mail tomorrow. So, now, the themes. There are 6 themes, and they are essentially the qualities of purity and the quality of action and the quality of peace and the quality of goodness and the quality of the uniqueness of the good, and then the quality of the ever-present ubiquity of the good. But these are explicated in detail and in practice throughout the book. And in order to give you a glimpse of that, let's take one of the exercises from the book. And I'm going to do this, I've done this pretty much at random. The workshop, which is in the book number 18, it's called Experiencing the Themes and Knowing Who You Are. So let's begin this practice. Let me just read about the theme and the practice, and we'll maybe do a little meditation afterwards. But this would be a good example. All right. Throughout this section, we will draw on 3 overriding principles. These are good to remember because they are essential. First of all, these exercises require paying attention. Number 1, pay attention. Number 2, these are about being, not about doing. The doing is important, but the focus here is on being, not the doing. And third, don't criticize. This is not a time for trying to evaluate what you're doing or your practice. As soon as you start to do that, you step out of the exercise and become something else. So let me say again, pay attention. It's about it's about being, not about doing. And third, don't evaluate what's going on. There'll be plenty of time for that later. So, the spiritual path is about knowing the true, knowing God, knowing the one. And it's about getting to know ourselves so that we may know that truth. That is the one imperative of the spiritual life. know the truth. Now, for the spiritual traveler, this knowledge comes in two stages. The first stage is intellectual, logical, rational, and hence it is doctrinal. Doctrine is a wonderful thing because it allows us to anchor whatever it is we say, do, and believe into reality. So doctrine is essential. You have to know what we're doing. But once we have the doctrine, we need to do something with it. In the second stage is really the most important part of the spiritual path because method leads to experience. And it is true that we don't chase after experiences, but it's certainly not irrelevant, and it is certainly important that this existential quality of knowing personally is what we are really after. But it goes with being created and being in the human state, and that's why we have experiences, because after all, that's why we're here, to have experiences. And that is to say, we are here so that we can learn by our experience, and through that experience, get to know the true, the real, the one, God. So, what do we do with experience when we have it? Whether it's the experience of having the pain in your toe at the moment, or some grand, lofty spiritual experience. There are two things that can be said about experience. One is that experiences come and go. Now, we know that things that come and go can't be finally the truth, because the truth is stable, it's one, it's real. God doesn't come and go. And that's a very important key, because we have all kinds of experiences and sensations. And the first thing to say about them is that they come and they go. The other thing we know about them is that we observe them. It appears to our consciousness. Consequently, we can say that things that appear to our consciousness are not really us. As they say in philosophy, no pot is large enough to hold itself. So that which observes experience can't really be experience. So that must be something else. So here we have the two qualities. One that comes and goes, and the other that observes them. Now, that happens throughout the continuum of experience. One of the levels that is particularly important is physical, corporeal, bodily experiences. They are important for a variety of reasons. One is that the body has a way of insisting that it's real, and it does so often with pain, when it asserts that I am you and I am the body. Pain is also available, intimate, and immediate. We all know that experience. It gives us an environment, a method, a place to work, which is a place to work on this very question of experience. And although the goal of the spiritual life is to become that which we know and to become ourselves and to know that which we are, one of the easiest and most important ways to begin to find out who we are is by using the body. So there is a place in the spiritual life for the body. Often our exercises begin with exercises in bodily awareness, because the body is something that we have. We don't want to leave it behind. If we use it properly, it will not only not hold us back, but it can actually facilitate and help us open ourselves to spiritual experiences. So this was about experiencing who we are through that kind of knowledge, and the body is very important in doing that. The body is one of the four key elements of what we are calling the unified path, and that's really a later discovery or observation or inspiration in my spiritual life to discover that when we look back at the great saints and sages of history, what we learn from them if you look at their practices, is they come from traditions and practices that deal with the whole person. The practices are holistic. And so often, these days, it's easy to be hung up on a technique or a particular approach that doesn't include all of us. And when I say all of us, for practical purposes and for the purposes of explicating the unified path, we talk about the body, the mind, the heart, and the soul. And unless we deal with all of those components of ourselves, we're leaving something behind. And that same thing that we're leaving behind may hold us back. And even if it doesn't hold us back, if it's not being used properly, it isn't going to facilitate our opening, our approach, our understanding, and our use of the various wonderful spiritual tools and techniques that we have. Excuse me. So, to find out more about this approach, the Unified Path, please see our channel, The Unified Path, and we'd be happy to include you in that community too. Anyway, as I was saying, this book is about the themes, and I think we're probably at a point now where we can try a meditation on the themes, and I'm going to pick one at random here. All right, I'm going to pick theme 3, which is about peace. So we're going to do a little meditation for about 5 minutes. Just relax. Just relax. Really relax. Take a deep breath and exhale. Another deep breath and exhale. And as you exhale, let everything go. All your cares, all your concerns, all the things that are in your mind, let them go. Just for now. Just for now. Another deep breath. And let things go. Now, try to clear your mind. Just be clear for a moment. Just let things go and be clear. Things will come to you. Sensations, memories, ideas, plans. Just let them go. Just for now. Just stay here in this clear, open space. Just for now. Things will come. Let them go. They don't need to carry you with them. And as you're here watching these things, observing them come and go, notice you have a choice. The choice of letting them carry you with them and be involved with them, or just letting them go. Notice you have that choice. Now just stay here in this pure, clear, beautiful moment. Just for now, as you let everything go. just be here. Here in this wonderful, clear, beautiful space. Let those things go. Take another deep breath. Exhale. Now change your focus from inside to outside. Become aware of your body. Open your eyes. Rub your hands together if you like. Maybe gently rub your eyes. And relax. That's a quick meditation on peace and the use of the the third theme. We'll be doing more of that in the future. Now, let me also add, if you're a latecomer, we're going to be giving away my new book, a signed copy, and if you'll put your name in the chat at the side, we're going to select a name at random later, and I'll sign the book, and we'll have it in the mail for you tomorrow. Also, I'd like to ask you to subscribe to this channel and to see us on our other sister channel, The Unified Path. We'd be glad to have you there, and we'll be doing many of the things there that we've done here today. At this point, I'd like to say I'm very glad you're here, and if there are any questions, I'd be happy to try to take some now, or you can submit them on our channel later by email. But if there are any questions now, I think there have been a couple, I'd be happy to try to answer them. Here's one from Elisha, who says, can I explore the practices in this book if I don't resonate with spiritual language such as God or divinity? Well, yes. I think the very fact that you're interested in the book means that you resonate with something. And I realize that so often what we have here is a language problem when one talks about God and divinity, the truth, the one, the real, and so forth. And without getting into the cumbersome language that one might use, if these practices appeal to you, if you have some sense of wanting to be more or interact with that which is greater or higher, don't bother naming it for now. What you want is to get as much experience as you can, and this book, I submit to you, will help you do that. So even if you don't resonate with the language, as it says in the question, I think there's still something for you here. Now, next question. The material in the book is indeed a lot to take in and sounds like a lot of work, and it also feels rich and compromising to me. Could there be more guidance on exactly what to do and how to do this work, whether it's online or in person, in terms of working with the themes. Yes, very much so. I would like that very much. I'd be happy to take any questions personally, and that as time goes on in the near future, we're going to have, I believe, some online sessions where we can go over these things in detail and offer specific answers, techniques, and tools for those who want to use these things. And then later, perhaps in the spring, we're going to try to have some in-person events where we can do these things and watch them in person, as well as have teachers of various components of these things speak to us and show them what techniques they are using and how we might use those techniques ourselves. This is very broad, but it's intended to be broad because it's intended to be helpful to everyone. Let's see. I hope that's helpful.
Next question's coming.
Next question's coming. All right. Aisha asked, what's the difference between this book and my previous books? Well, the reason I write books is because I want to make the practical side of spirituality available. In my experience, there's a lot of spiritual literature, and there's much written, and much of it is beautiful and worthwhile, but it isn't enough to read. It isn't enough to know the ideas. You have to put those ideas into practice and do something. Otherwise, ideas remain ideas. And if you think a lot, what you end up with is a lot of thoughts. So my books are intended to provide practical systems, practical ideas, practical tools and techniques for engaging the spiritual life and overcoming the problems that we have as separate individuals, so that we can know the truth and rejoin the one. This book is about a specific set of practices called the 6 Themes of Meditations, which I submit to you are very valuable tools in introducing whatever practice that you're now using and allowing, providing a means of overcoming your separation and distractedness so that you can focus on what it is that you're really doing. And that's why I wrote this book. Jahan writes, Terry, been following you for a while, and I'd like to know, how does this book expand on or diverge from the core principles of the unified path? Thank you for asking. The unified path, as I was saying before, is the proposition that our spiritual life, and really much of our other life too, requires a holistic approach. And that in terms of the spiritual life, there needs to be what we are calling the body, mind, heart, and soul, which is to say a physical practice, a mental, a learning practice, a devotional or worshipful practice, and an interior practice. These are about introductions to the last group, to the interior practice. Because if your practice is meditation, then how to get into meditation is always a question. These tools, these six themes, as can be used quickly, or for that matter at some length, as a transitional tool to help leave the rest of you and the world behind so that you can give yourself to your practice as much as you can. Again, these are tools that are designed to help you with the practice that you are now doing or that you might take up. They will not substitute for what you're doing. Let's see. Abigail asks, what do you hope your readers think, feel, and do after reading Doors of Awareness? Well, I think there are a number of things that I would like people to do after they read Doors of Awareness. One is to give copies to their friends, and I note that it's the holiday season, and it's a good time to give books. And this one would be a good book to give others. But more than that, what I want people to do after reading this book is actually use it. Because if the book isn't in use, if these themes aren't practiced, they remain just ideas. And there's only so much you can do with concepts. And as long as they remain concepts, they're interesting and they're beautiful and they're encouraging, but they don't really turn the wheels of the heart. You have to put those concepts into practice. And this is about ways of putting the concepts into practice. That's what the themes are for. Next question. Thalia asks, I wanted to ask, since I'm fairly new to the Unified Path, but it makes a lot of sense to me, and I just haven't found the right spiritual activities yet. If I begin to do these meditations and I also want balance, which elements of the Unified Path are addressed by my meditations on these themes? Well, that's a very good question, and one that allows me to get back to the elements of the Unified Path: body, mind, heart, and soul. And the point of the Unified Path is to deal with all of those, but not necessarily to put them in balance, or at least not to make them equal. All of us have a different need for different amounts of these things, and that which is true for one person may need more devotional activities, or may be doing too much devotional activities and not spending enough time learning or doing the interior work, or for that matter, using the physical component. They remain out of balance. So it's a question that you have to answer for yourself. I have a video out here on self-assessment that will help you, I hope, assess where you are and where these various elements are in your life and your practice. But it's an individual question, and it's one that you can answer yourself, I hope. You can answer it in conjunction with others. This is a practice that is very much open to discussion with others and community. And of course, I'd be happy to help in any way that I can. But it's a very good question about which elements are necessary for you. And the first thing I'd suggest you do to try to answer that question is try them out, explore them, feel around, see how they feel, and again, look at that assessment video and see how strong these various elements are in your own life and in your own practice.
Okay, Terry, we have one additional question, and I just asked one of the viewers for their input. So Abigail asked, I'd like to ask you about how you describe your writing process. Would you say it is divinely inspired?
Oh, is my writing process divinely inspired? Well, I'd love to say my writing process is divinely inspired, but that gives the wrong impression. Most of my writing is done in response to questions, either questions I have or questions that others ask. And in the process of answering those questions, I hope that there's a gem of inspiration in there somewhere, but I can't look at you and say my my writing is divinely inspired. But I hope a lot of it is.
We have a question from Laura, and she asks, where is the question?
Question from Laura.
Sorry, I just lost it. Is this book aimed at a more advanced spiritual seeker, or is this for anyone?
Oh, Laura, thank you. That's an excellent question. The question is this book aimed at an advanced spiritual seeker, traveler, or at a beginner? And the answer is both. because I think those who are very new to the process of spiritual work or self-transformation can find in here tools that will make learning these things, exploring these things, knowing these things easier. Similarly, for those who are advanced or experienced travelers, and this was my experience after 30 years in a Sufi order, these are things that are very helpful to those who know the territory and want to be able to use it better. So the answer to the question is, yes, it's for everybody. It's intended for everybody, newcomers and advanced seekers and travelers alike.
Monica just wrote in, are there supplementary sources like guided meditations or interactive content to help readers deepen their understanding of the book's themes?
Oh, there will be in short time, because we'll be doing a lot of these things, I hope, together. And I'll be recording more guided meditations, and I hope there will be a community where we can do these things together. And if you'd like to be part of that community, please subscribe and visit our channel, The Unified Path. Yes, that's very much part of the process and will be forthcoming. And thank you for the question, Monica.
Great. Maria asked, for future, could you share body practices, breathing you recommend?
Yes. Well, as I was saying, I keep saying that a lot, but as I was saying, in the Unified Path, one of the elements is the body and the use of the body, because the body isn't something that we want to ignore or leave behind. It can be problematic for us, and at the same time, if we handle it well, it can be an asset, and it can help us open our hearts. But there are many practices for using the body, and they involve motions or rituals or breathing or other activities, and we will be exploring those in detail in future sessions, and I hope having experts who teach these things available to show us how they're really done. And that's forthcoming, and I look forward to being able to share those things with everyone. And thank you for the question.
I'm just looking, and it looks like we've gotten through all the questions, Terry.
All right, well...
I do have a question.
Wait a minute, we have a question from Tony. Yes, Tony.
Is this a book circle book?
Is this a book circle book? I would very much like this to be a book circle book, in that there's a lot to be discussed here, and the approach to the themes of meditation and their use is the kind of thing where we can actually all learn from each other and each other's experience. So this is very much a book circle kind of book, and we hope to be having those book circles in future online meetings, and one day in the not too distant future, maybe in-person book circle gatherings. So yes, this is very much a book circle book. Please join our book circle. Now, is it time to give away
Yes, it
An-
is. If,
an
Terry,
autographed copy of the
yeah,
book?
you can tell them to put, if they haven't already, their name in the
All
side
right,
chat,
right.
and we'll do a randomizer.
Let me ask you one more time. Put your name in the side chat, and in a matter of minutes, we're going to do a randomized drawing and give away a signed copy of my new book, and it'll be in the mail tomorrow. And I need my team to tell me...
Great. And we
when-
have the winner is
we have a winner.
Francis Aquino.
Francis Aquino is our winner. And Francis, this book, I will inscribe it, and it will be in the mail to you tomorrow morning. Now, even those of you who didn't win the book, you can buy this book at Amazon, and I submit to you it's a great Christmas present or holiday present, and we're in the season for giving. And it's available after today. So please buy a copy and give one to your friends. And do subscribe to this channel, and do please visit us on the Unified Path. Thank you for being here. Greatly appreciated.